Please welcome Mayor Bill de Blasio.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Well, everybody, welcome to the beautiful King's Theater in the great borough of Brooklyn. Isn't this place amazing? And welcome to everyone watching at home. This is a time we gather each year to think about this place we love. Bienvenidos a todos. We are all here together as New Yorkers, and we feel so deeply about our city. And I have so much I'm thankful for, and first and foremost, I'm thankful for my partner in all I do, our First Lady, Chirlane McCray. I want to welcome and thank the elected leaders of this city. I want to thank Council Speaker Corey Johnson, Public Advocate Letitia James, Comptroller Scott Stringer, all of the borough presidents, and a special shout out to my borough president, Eric Adams. Brooklyn has to represent. The district attorneys, the members of Congress, the state legislators, and the members of the City Council. Let's thank them all for what they do for this city. And my deep, deep thanks to a man who has served us all so well, Mayor David Dinkins. Now we have some other very important public servants with us tonight, but their names are not so well known. However, every day they make a huge difference in this city. And they work at dozens of city agencies, making life better for all of us. You'll find their names in your program this evening. And if you look in there when you get a chance, you will see some incredible stories. People who have made a real difference. There are a few I want to highlight tonight that stand out to me. And the first, this is really something amazing to me, a good man named Joe Caggiano from Staten Island. Joe, where are you? Stand up, I know you're out there, Joe. Joe is the oldest active duty uniformed employee in all of New York City. He has made sure that New York City's trash is picked up for the last 52 years. They don't call them New York's strongest for nothing, do they, Joe? The next person I want to highlight is very personal to me. Detective Leo Pereira. This guy's cheering section there. A 21-year veteran of the NYPD who serves on my security detail. Leo was off duty some weeks ago, and he was waiting for the E train in Midtown, and he heard screaming down the platform. A woman had jumped onto the tracks. Leo, without hesitation, ran to where he saw a crowd had formed, and he jumped on the tracks as well to save her life. He made sure she was safe. He made sure she was in good hands. He wasn't on duty when he did it, but he did it because his duty is 24/7, and he is devoted to the people of this city every day. Let's thank Leo. Next, I want to honor one of New York's boldest, who can't be with us tonight. Department of Correction Officer Jean Souffrant. He is, as we speak, recovering from a terrible attack that he suffered just days ago while working on Rikers Island. I spoke to him and his family on Sunday morning, and this is the measure of our public servants. Even with everything that he was going through, his concern and the concern of his family was for his fellow officers. I made it clear to him and to his family that we will hold those responsible for this heinous attack fully accountable. And we will take the actions necessary to protect our brave correction officers who do so much for us. We will not allow our correction officers to be assaulted, period. Now, here's something else I want to tell you about Jean. Jean is a proud immigrant from Haiti. He lives in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. And he made a choice to take on a tough job to protect his fellow New Yorkers. Now, even though our president has denigrated Jean's homeland, I want to thank the entire Haitian community. That community gave us Jean and so many others who contribute so much to this city. Now, I want to tell you another story. I want to take you back to the afternoon of Halloween last year. And you may remember that it started like any other Halloween, a day families look forward to, and kids and parents were preparing for the night's festivities. And in the middle of all that, something shocking and something terrible happened. A person filled with evil and hatred tried to strike at the heart of this city. Driving down a bike lane on the West Side Highway, he took 8 lives and left a dozen more injured. Let's remember something important. That attack came out of nowhere. It could have been much worse if it weren't for police officer Ryan Nash. When the perpetrator jumped out of the van he was driving, Ryan acted quickly and selflessly and ended the threat. Ryan, we all want to thank you. And I want to salute all the officers who in that moment stepped up and address the threat alongside Ryan. From the NYPD, officers John Hasiotis, Michael Welsum, and Kevin McGinn. From the FDNY, EMTs Anthony Fracciola and Jin Yang. And from the Parks Department, Enforcement Patrol Captain Luz Carrion. They all showed us what our city is made of when they ran toward the danger. And then that night, 2 million New Yorkers made a statement. They came out to the annual Halloween parade in Greenwich Village. They were not deterred, they were not scared, and they sent this powerful message to the entire world. In New York City, we will not be intimidated and we will not change. There's one more story I have to tell, and it has a painful ending. One night last December, a deadly fire broke out in the Bronx. And the call came in at 6:51 p.m. The first engine arrived on the scene 3 minutes later. There were freezing temperatures, there were gusting winds that made fighting a difficult fire that much harder. That didn't stop the brave New Yorkers of Engine 88 and Ladder 38. They were the first on the scene, and other FDNY units came and joined them to save lives. And they all had some help that night from someone who epitomizes what it means to take care of your neighbors. Army Private Emmanuel Mensah, who emigrated from Ghana 5 years ago. He was home on leave in that apartment building when the fire broke out. With true New York guts, he ran into the fire not once, not twice, but 3 times to save his neighbors. Tragically, he did not emerge the last time. His family is here with us tonight, including his father, his sister, and 3 of his cousins. And I want us to let them know that we are all their family now. We have so many heroes assembled with us who've done things that you saw in the papers and things that you'll never read about, except in the pamphlet we gave out tonight. Let's applaud all the people who make New York City great every single day. Three years, 10 months, and 15 days. That's how long this administration has to ensure that we become the fairest big city in America. And we will take on that mission, and we will do it with speed, and we'll do it with urgency. And we do this to ensure a better life for all 8.5 million of us. We do this to preserve the social fabric of the most diverse place on earth. We do this to ensure that we're always a place for everyone. That magical openness that has made New York City great is always protected. But we also do this to guard against the threats to our democracy that are growing across this nation. It's our mission to define what a fair and just society looks like, to show it through our deeds and in our everyday lives, to take that quintessentially American egalitarian spirit and make it come alive again. We have to be the keepers of that flame. We have to ask ourselves, if not here, where? We, in fact, have to be the antidote to the sickness that is gripping our nation. This evening, I will paint you a picture of where New York City is going and what we need to achieve together. I hope to make clear what being the fairest big city in America means. And I will propose a series of measures that I believe are needed to protect and reinforce our battered democracy. And here's why those pieces go together. Because we can't create a more just society if we don't confront the decline of democracy that we're experiencing in this city, in this state, all over this nation. And equally, we can't afford to become a pseudo-democracy because of unsustainable and growing inequality. There is a point at which extreme inequality makes a mockery of a democratic society. That point, sadly, is not too far away. So, let me take you to the task at hand, becoming the fairest big city in America. The video you saw gave you the flavor of some of the steps we've taken so far, what they mean to the people of this city. And when you came in this evening, you were handed this booklet, which conveniently is titled The Fairest Big City in America. This booklet is a simple, straightforward game plan of what we intend to do this year and the years ahead. This is the kind of goal we can all unify around. This is the kind of goal that matters to everyone in this city. 12 points. Let me go over them with you. Number one, how do we become the fairest big city in America? By listening to the voices of the people. Nothing comes through louder and clearer. And yes, we New Yorkers are loud. Nothing comes through more than that daily demand for fairness. New Yorkers aren't afraid of tough challenges, but we want the rules of the game to be fair. So my mandate to my entire administration is this: make every decision, whether about a policy or the budget or personnel, make every decision with this simple question in mind. Will this action help make us the fairest big city in America? And then apply these decisions with urgency and energy. Number two, we are going to make the safest big city in America even safer. That's something that New Yorkers can do, because we never stop when we've achieved something great. We keep going. And we're going to prove once again that safety and fairness walk hand in this city. Nothing defines the relationship between a society and its people more than how they are policed. If policing is fair, it makes fairness possible in all aspects of life. And that's what we have to ensure. So here's the formula. We'll extend and deepen neighborhood policing, which you saw so beautifully portrayed in the video. We'll keep crime low while keeping arrests low as well. We'll use precision policing strategies to focus on the worst crime and the worst problems. And we'll create more trust and accountability by having body cameras on all of our patrol officers by the end of this year. The beauty of this approach is it keeps getting better year by year. The more we heal the wounds of the past, the deeper the bonds become between police and community, and the further we go. Number three, now it's time to do something great. Now it's time for 3K for all. Thanks to so many people in this room, pre-K for all is already a reality in this city. And it's been a huge success. And let's applaud the parents and the educators and everyone who helped make pre-K happen. And again, we're New Yorkers, so we achieved something great. Then it's time to go farther. We're on a very aggressive path to doing something that no major American city has ever done before, providing a great early childhood education for every 3-year-old for free. That's going to make a difference in this city. Let me explain why this is so essential to a fair and just society. And I'll frame it with a blunt and basic fact. We are dealing with inequities in education that go back to the historical sins and contradictions of our nation. We face an achievement gap today that is rooted in the enslavement of Americans and the pervasive discrimination against people of color over centuries. We know exactly where the problem comes from. But to defeat structural racism and to overcome this achievement gap, we have to flip the script. We have to do something different when it comes to education. Because in truth, we started educating children too late in their development. And that exacerbated the inequalities already baked into their lives at an early age. Now, reaching all 4-year-olds is a major step forward, but reaching all 3-year-olds will be seismic. A huge and lasting impact on the children and their families and this whole city. We will reach all of our children by 2021, and we'll tap into their potential far more than we ever have before, and this is one of the most basic building blocks of fairness. And when I say fairness, I want you to know that is the animating spirit for our equity and excellence vision for our schools. The simplest way to boil it down is this: we can no longer tolerate a status quo in which there are perceived good schools, quote unquote good schools, and quote unquote bad schools, depending on where you live. No city in the 21st century can call itself fair. No city can call itself truly great, so long as that horrible bifurcated reality exists. So we're taking this challenge head on. Early childhood education is the beginning, but there's so much more to do, and we have to move fast. In the coming weeks, I will speak to the people of this city about our next big equity and excellence goal: increasing the number of children reading on grade level by 3rd grade. This is the watershed measure of a child's educational potential, and this is where we will make our stand as a city. And I will ask all New Yorkers to join in this effort, our educators and our parents and our community organizations and our businesses and the faith community. This is how we will build a stronger future for this city. Number 4, and this is one I know everyone can relate to. In the last few months, the biggest affordable housing plan in the history of New York City got even bigger. When it comes to fighting income inequality and creating fairness in our everyday lives, nothing is more important than affordable housing. It's not just that this is the #1 expense for every family, and that the cost of housing defines whether you can live a decent life or not in this city. It's also about a basic question of fairness. Will the people who built this city, the people who were here in good times and bad, will they get to stay in the city they love? Well, here's how I see it. Every time a family is saved from an illegal eviction, every time a family gets their apartment preserved at an affordable rent, every time a family moves into one of our new affordable buildings, it's another step towards becoming the fairest big city in America. And we will reach more New Yorkers in the next 4 years than ever before in our history. So they can be New Yorkers for a long time to come. Here's another good way to make sure New Yorkers can afford the city they love. Give them better paying jobs. Now, let me be clear. I've worked with so many of you in this room. I want to thank the elected officials who are here and so many activists and community leaders. We've all worked together in this city to raise the floor for working people, to make sure we had a higher minimum wage and better benefits like paid sick leave and paid family leave. But now we need to go further. A truly just society constantly tries to share the wealth, to do what a slogan from the progressive era of 100 years ago called for, a very simple slogan. It says, "Pass prosperity around." Well, as this city has become more prosperous, we have more jobs than any other time in our history, right at this moment in this city. But we need to get better paying jobs in the hands of New Yorkers. The goal we have set is to add 100,000 jobs that pay $50,000 or more and to target them to the residents of all 5 boroughs. And it means a better quality of life for their families, and this alone will reach over 250,000 New Yorkers. These are the things we need to do to make a difference in this city. Number 6, a fair future for our children hinges on protecting our city from the danger of global warming. When you think about your children, you think about your grandchildren. This issue comes into very sharp focus. This is one of the clearest examples of how we and other cities and states need to be the antidote to broken policies in Washington. When President Trump renounced the Paris Agreement, New York City was in the vanguard of a movement that now totals over 300 American cities. And we are taking matters into our own hands. We understand clearly we have to protect our own people from global warming when our national government fails to do so. And we have to aim higher than ever before. So we're going to speed up. You're going to see more buildings required to cut their emissions. You're going to see more electric vehicle charging stations around the city. You're going to see an all-electric city car fleet. You're going to see a lot of things that make clear we are not going to ignore this crisis. We're going to address it ourselves. And while we take positive steps to protect our Earth, we're also going after the big corporations that caused this mess to begin with. And my thanks to our comptroller and our public advocate who have been shoulder to shoulder in this effort. New York City will divest $5 billion in pension fund investments from fossil fuel companies. $5 billion tends to get people's attention. And we are suing 5 of the biggest petroleum companies to win back money we need to protect our people from the impact of climate change. Number 7, there are some big fights ahead in Albany and in Washington, and New York City will help to lead the way. Starting in 2018 and for the next 4 years in Albany, we will fight for something that should have happened a long time ago: full funding for our schools under the Campaign for Fiscal Equity ruling. Like it or not, only Albany can pass the legislation that can end this crisis. Now, I'll tell you where I stand, particularly in light of the biggest giveaway to the wealthy and corporations in our history, the Trump tax plan. I think we should redouble our efforts for a millionaire's tax. And a millionaire's tax would allow us to fix our subway and to fund the fair fare proposal, half-price Metro cards for low-income New Yorkers. But I also want to be clear to everyone else working on this issue. I will sit down with leaders in Albany anytime, anywhere, to find a solution to the subway crisis. I have only one condition: the money raised in New York City stays in New York City. And one thing we should look forward to doing: one day pretty soon, after an election, or maybe 2 elections, we will fight to rescind the Trump giveaways to the wealthy and the big corporations. And to return our nation to the tradition of progressive taxation that made us strong to begin with. It's as simple as this: we will not rest until the 1% pay their fair share in taxes. Number 8, we will fight the opioid epidemic. We will fight the opioid epidemic with the same zeal, the same intensity with which we've taken on homicides and traffic fatalities. Look, it took years of hard work. Our good men and women of the NYPD and neighborhood partners and the Cure Violence movement and so many others. But last year, homicides were at their lowest level since 1951 in this city. And it's taken a lot of creativity and some very tough choices. But last year, traffic fatalities were at their lowest level in over a century in this city. So, my friends, what this makes clear to us is it can be done. We're New Yorkers, we can do amazing things. And so we will take on the opioid crisis. We will throw at it the biggest combined effort ever by our city agencies, increasing prevention and enforcement and treatment. And we'll work at the grassroots to reach families in the throes of this crisis and to get them the help they need. These New Yorkers will know they are not alone. We will help them through this extraordinary challenge. we can and we will take on this epidemic. And one of the ways we will do it is we will hold responsible those who created it, the big pharmaceutical companies that profited from people's pain. We have initiated litigation to stop their deadly practices and to win the funds to help more New Yorkers overcome addiction. We will help them to overcome addiction and lead strong lives again. Number 9, and this is one of the biggest changes we're making in this city, and it has only just begun, and it's called Thrive NYC. Thrive NYC is a particular favorite in our household. Still in its infancy, it has already reached hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers. Now, if you know Shirlane McRae, you would know that she does not shy from a challenge. And here is the simple audacity underlying our First Lady's vision. She believes every New Yorker should have access to the mental health care they need. Simple as that. And she knows that getting people this care will help us address a whole host of societal challenges. It will help us address homelessness. It will help us reduce incarceration. It will help us take on domestic violence. This is fundamental to creating a better city. It's fundamental to fighting inequality. Here's what we know. New York City now has the most comprehensive approach to mental health of any city in America. And as we deepen our efforts, this will be one of the true building blocks to overcoming decades of disparity and creating fairness. Nothing exemplifies fairness more than universal access to health care. And that is true whether it is a physical health condition or a mental health condition. We need to treat both of them the same way. We will be. Because of our First Lady, we will be a city where mental health care is accessible to all, every one of us. Number 10, in this moment in history, people are speaking up and they are rising up against the inequities of the past. And we know, to be fair, to create fairness, we have to take on these challenges. We will use the power of city government to ensure one of the simplest measures of fairness: equal pay for equal work. Through our Commission on Gender Equity, we will systematically root out the vestiges of the past that have held so many New Yorkers back. And we'll continue to show, through our strengthened Human Rights Commission, that discrimination will be confronted and stopped dead in its tracks. Remember the old phrase, crime doesn't pay? Well, in New York City today, if you commit an act of discrimination, you will pay. Number 11, as we get safer in New York City, we will also get fairer. Our police are achieving more and more reductions in crime, and with fewer and fewer arrests. This is a story that needs to be told. In fact, there were 100,000 fewer arrests in 2017 than just 4 years earlier. By the way, crime went down. Fewer arrests and crime went down. And the power of this is also one of the ways we reduce our jail population. As I said when we announced the plan to close the 85-year-old complex on Rikers Island, the era of mass incarceration did not begin in New York City, but it will end in New York City. We have already begun a series of actions that will get us off Rikers Island once and for all. And everyone who cares about this, everyone who believes this is a matter of fairness, you should join us in Albany to fight for bail reform and for speedier trials. These are the single most important factors in radically reducing our jail population, and we need to get them done this year. Finally, the last item of the booklet, but surely not the least. If we're going to create a fairer city, it means addressing decades of neglect and the mistakes of the past and investing in our housing authority and the people who live in NYCHA buildings. Since this administration began, we have invested $2.1 billion in capital dollars and $1.6 billion in expense dollars in NYCHA. Nothing like that happened in the previous history of this city. But here's what it means in human terms. It means almost 1,000 new roofs for residents who have suffered from mold and leaks. It means new boilers and heating systems in the developments that need them the most. It means deepening our efforts to reduce crime and make development safe. And it means faster repairs so people can live a decent life. And let me make it very plain. Our public housing residents are a priority for me. They're a priority for my administration. They're a priority for the city council and our citywide officials and our borough presidents, more than at any point before in our history. This entire city government is focused on the needs of 400,000 New Yorkers who have not gotten a fair shake for a long time. We will do something different in this city, and this is part of how we become a fairer city. We're going to continue to make big changes through our Next Generation NYCHA plan, and we're going to show the success that we reached in our largest development, Queensbridge Houses, is what we can do all over this city. We're going to show that real change can come, that safety can be achieved, that roofs can be fixed, that internet access can be provided, an opportunity opened up. It happened at Queensbridge Houses, and we're going to systematically make sure it happens all over this city for the residents of public housing. So, again, if you want to know what's going to happen in 2018, you want to know what's going to happen in this second term of this administration, there it is. Simple and straightforward. Our goal couldn't be clearer. We have a lot of the tools we need. We've proven they work. We know what we need from Albany. We know what we need from Washington. We're going to organize New Yorkers and allies everywhere to achieve those goals. So that's a reason to be optimistic as we embark on this mission, creating a fairer city. There are some things that we can feel very good about. But here's a fundamental obstacle that we have to overcome. You can't fight for greater equality with less democracy. History teaches us that fundamental change, fundamental social change comes from the bottom up, not from the top down. Sabemos la tarea que tenemos ante nosotros. Hacer de Nueva York la ciudad grande más justa del país. Pero no podemos luchar por más igualdad con menos democracia. El cambio debe venir desde abajo, no desde arriba. Por eso tenemos un plan para sacar los grandes intereses de la política y facilitar el voto para fortalecer nuestra democracia. As New Yorkers, we have often led America's battles for fairness and equality. And we've been accustomed to winning, no matter how long it took. But that, my friends, was before the Citizens United decision by the Supreme Court, something we had never seen in the history of our nation. That was before big money flooded and dominated our political process. That was before voter participation plummeted amidst very cynical and systematic efforts to discourage people from getting involved. That was before we had a president who denigrates our people and the very institutions basic to our democracy. That was before that same president aligned himself with Russia, which has conducted the most serious external attack on our electoral process in our nation's 240-year history. So if we're going to fight for fairness and if we're going to fight for equality, we better fight to save our democracy. We are so far from what the norm should be of an active and inclusive democracy. We better understand in a proud nation that our mission is one of restoration. We must re-democratize a society that is losing its way. Now, there is some good news. There's a very bright silver lining in the middle of this crisis, and it's the extraordinary grassroots energy which is starting to manifest all over this nation, and certainly in this city and state as well. I think of it as the DIY approach to protecting what we hold dear. People are taking matters into their own hands. They're creating new approaches. They're throwing their own hats into the ring. The moment is ripe for change, and we need to meet the moment. But we're going to have to break free of something that's broken. We're going to have to shake the foundation of a broken status quo right here in our state and in our city. We cannot be the fairest big city in America if we have some of the most unfair and most exclusionary election laws of any state in the country. We can't lead the way to a restored democratic society if our people are discouraged from voting at every turn. We can't keep doing things the same backward way and somehow expect a better result. Nope, that won't work. It's time for radical change in New York City and New York State. To borrow a phrase, one I appreciate very much, this is what democracy looks like. Today I'm unveiling a 10-point plan which will engage the people of the city directly, and it's called Democracy NYC. Simple concept that we can actually turn the tide and make our democracy in this city strong again. We're asking New Yorkers in every neighborhood to be part of the solution. And we're going to start by asking people to vote for major reforms. So let me go over what's in this 10-point plan. Number one, I will use my authority to appoint a charter revision commission, and I will give it the mandate to propose a plan for deep public financing of local elections. Nothing restores the faith of the people more than getting big money out of politics. So we need to build on the decades of campaign finance reform, which has been a great success in this city. We need to build on it by going even further for the times we're living in now. Our goal is for elections to be funded primarily by public dollars, thereby greatly reducing the power of big money. And here's something I love about it. More New Yorkers will be encouraged to run for office, and candidates will spend their time talking to everyday people, not their big donors. Number two, I will also charge the Charter Revision Commission with the task of proposing a plan to empower the city government to handle so many of the basic outreach and information efforts that the Board of Elections has consistently gotten wrong. In the greatest city in the world, voters too often find out at the last moment that their poll site has changed. In the most diverse place on earth, good luck getting reliable translation services when you go to vote. In the digital age, the best our Board of Elections does is send you a postcard to remind you there's an election. The board has no coherent vision for how to make voting an easy and positive experience. In fact, the board still won't approve simple reforms that I've proposed, and nor will they accept $20 million I offered them to help make voting better for New Yorkers. You've heard of the notion of being customer friendly? Our voting system in this city is about as customer unfriendly as it could be. It's not modern, it's not fair, and it needs to change now. Who's ready for a change? Well, you won't have to wait long, because under my plan, the people will get to vote this November. Number three, we know that the integrity of our elections is under attack from adversaries outside the United States. And I bet a lot of you felt that chilling sensation I felt just this week when we learned that Russia had successfully penetrated and compromised the voter registration rolls in several states. My friends, that's not a headline from an action movie in the 1980s. It's happening right here in our country right now. In 2016 and 2017, the City of New York provided the Board of Elections with around-the-clock threat monitoring and proactive checks on system integrity. We know the people who are trying to steal our elections won't stop. They'll be coming back, but we'll be there to make sure they don't succeed. My administration will share our cybersecurity expertise with the Board of Elections, and we will invest the money it will take to ensure that when a New Yorker walks into the voting booth, they can be sure that their vote will be counted. Number four, this is something different. In the coming weeks, I will name New York City's first ever Chief Democracy Officer. The Chief Democracy Officer will be charged with solving the problem of shrinking voter participation. They'll launch a citywide voter registration campaign and set goals for each city agency to register New Yorkers to vote when they come in contact with their local government. Now, it's New York City, so we like to set big goals, don't we? Whoever will take this job will end up being responsible for registering 1.5 million New Yorkers in the next 4 years. leads me to number 5. And if you have suddenly started to feel bad for the chief democracy officer, and you picture the individual literally personally signing up 1.5 million people, no, we're going to provide some help. And one of the areas we need to focus on the most is our young people. Some of them are in our audience today. Are you guys ready to vote? We will be reaching every 17-year-old in our public schools who's eligible to vote in the next election. That's about 50,000 young New Yorkers every year. They're in school every day. That's where they should register to vote so they can start being a part of this democratic society. We will also launch voter registration drives on college campuses in this city and start getting young people in the habit of voting from their very first election. Now, this leads to number 6. We know that registering our young people as early as possible does not an always voter make. We've got to prove to our young people that they've got the power to change the world around them. When people feel empowered, they participate. When they can see the impact they're making, they come back for more. So starting next school year, public school students will learn how to stay civically engaged and to fight for the future they believe in with our Civics for All initiative. And they will learn in a hands-on way by putting their skills to the test right there in their own school building. We're going to borrow a great idea pioneered by the City Council: participatory budgeting. We're going to give every high school in this city $2,000 for the students to make the decisions on how to use. And we know that when students feel that opportunity to make a difference, it will be the beginning of a long lifetime of participation. We're also going to do something to respond to an ever-changing world. We're going to encourage our students to understand the events that are shaping today's world and the role that every citizen plays with rapid response lesson plans. We're not going to teach them about things that happened only decades ago. We're going to teach them about today's news and what people can do about it. Number 7. Now, the next step towards a healthier democracy is getting more New Yorkers active in their neighborhoods. But if you want to join your community board or run for a community education council or elect to office, it can feel really daunting. It can feel hard to find the information you need. A lot of people don't even know where to start. So we're going to create an online portal, a one-stop shop, to get you all you need to make a difference in the life of your community. Number 8, most of the Democracy NYC plan can and will be done at the city level. But there are some critical reforms we need from Albany, and this is everybody's business and everyone's concern. If we want to fix our Board of Elections, the first thing we need to do, and we need Albany to approve it, to increase accountability and efficiency, 2 things we don't have enough of at the board, by empowering professional executive management for the 21st century. The next is so fundamental to engaging people in their democracy. It happens all over the country, in red states and blue states and small states and big states, but it doesn't happen here. We need early voting in New York. I was very glad to see the governor propose the resources needed for early voting in his budget proposal. Now, we all have to make sure that money is in the final state budget so it can actually happen in this state. We need Albany to make it easier to vote absentee. We need to allow same-day registration like states all over the country. And we need to weed out a host of rules that just make it way too hard to vote. My friends, it's time to say enough is enough. Let's make this a place where we can vote again. Number 9, to strengthen our democracy, we've got to create more accountability for those in power. It's one of the things that gives people heart and encouragement when they see that accountability. That's why New York is leading the nation's cities in lobbying disclosure requirements. The people deserve to know who's trying to influence elected officials and their senior staff. This new and improved disclosure website, which went live yesterday, allows New Yorkers to search for which city officials are meeting with which lobbyists. And starting March 1st, New York will be the only city in the country requiring that all commissioners and all people who report directly to the mayor disclose every time they have a meeting with a lobbyist. Number 10, the last item in the plan, starts with a surprising sentence. You won't hear it too often. I wish you would hear it more often, but I can only say it once in a while. We actually got some good news from Washington, D.C. Pleased to report to you that President Trump's vastly unqualified nominee to run the 2020 census has withdrawn his name from consideration. But the fight to make sure that every New Yorker gets counted has only just begun. Given the Trump administration's views of our rich diversity, we must work twice as hard to get a fair shake. Tonight I'm announcing Get Counted, the largest census outreach campaign in our city's history. And we're going to work with our partners at every level of government, with community leaders, private sector, faith organizations, anyone and everyone who wants to make sure that New York City is seen for all it is, and that our people are counted in the eyes of our nation. Getting counted can make all the difference. Determines how many congressional seats we get, determines how much federal money is sent to us. A lot of that money comes from New York City and doesn't come back. So we'd really like to make sure that we get more than we have in the past. When you think about the census, think about it this way: it is entirely about getting our fair share. And everyone has to be a part of making sure we are all counted. So, my friends, that's our Democracy NYC plan. And guess what? It will only work if you get involved. There's a very powerful phrase in the recovery movement, and it could be said about democracy as well. It works if you work it. So we need you. We need you to go to Albany and demand fair election laws. We need you to register your fellow New Yorkers to vote. And we need you to vote this November. And this November, you will get a chance to vote for reforms that get big money out and grassroots democracy in. So why not get started now? Here's a postcard. Yes, it's low tech, but it works for a crowd like this. So here's a postcard. Everyone's here because you care about the city. Please fill this out. It will help to make sure that we can get you involved in so many ways that will strengthen the democracy of our city, and the involvement of our people. So I'll conclude tonight with a final thought about the moment we're living in. It's brief, but it's something I feel deeply. We've come a long way, but history has shown us many times gains that were won can sadly also be lost. Some remarkable people struggled for change, gave their all. But what they fought for was sometimes taken away later on. Whether we like it or not, democracy is something each generation must earn. In my entire lifetime, I have never felt our democracy as imperiled as I do today. I've never seen such rampant inequality as I see today. And it would be easy to cower in the face of these horribly paired twins, two phenomena that threaten us and that sadly work together to undermine the lives of our people. I can see it clearly, but I have to tell you, I've still got plenty of hope. And I think you should too, because what we've learned is the people can demand change, and the people can ensure that that change actually happens. We've seen it right here in this city. The things we talked about tonight all resulted from the will of the people. A lot of people who worked for years, sometimes anonymously, sometimes in a lonely, long struggle, fought for the changes that are now part of the fabric of this city. Yes, it can be done. And in the last year, we've seen energy and activism like never before. Not only here, just think about what happened all around this country just a few months ago in November. We saw something extraordinary. We saw people defy the odds. We saw people decide that this was their society, this was their country. So here's how I conclude, and I feel it in my heart. We are poised at the beginning of a new age, something we've never seen before. We have a new and bolder chapter to write, and its author will be you. Thank you. God bless you all. And God bless New York City.
CBS Morning News. CBS 2 News This Morning. And CBS This Morning. Real news in the NYC.